Welcome to the Does This Happen to You podcast, where we explore the funny side of truth is stranger than fiction stories. Our story this week is from the book Stripped Down, A Naked Memoir by Stacey Keith. Check it out on Amazon.com. I ran away from my preschool when I was 5. Right over the wall I went, burning with the injustice of artistic oppression and the tyrannical prejudices of others. The dust-up with my teacher, Sister Mary Margaret, had been over a picture I'd drawn. Her instructions were to render, in crayon, a family portrait. So I drew 5 long-haired, shirtless rock musicians and my mother, in hot pants. Sister Mary Margaret wasn't amused. She threatened to spank me, showed me the paddle even, and described the hellfire that awaited little girls who lied or tried to be funny, who were disrespectful to their parents. Only this was my family. My mother was a rock musician, and thanks to financial support from friend and film actress Yvette Mimieux, we all lived in a 5-story mansion overlooking the Hollywood Bowl. Previous tenants included Frank Sinatra, who used to vacation there with his Rat Pack. Growing up in the rock biz, I learned at an early age that the sticky sweet odor emanating from our basement was marijuana, this despite my mother's ironclad rule against smoking it. I'd learned that Richie, our bass player, kept tabs of acid in the refrigerator. I thought all 5-year-olds knew this stuff. Circus life seems normal to a pig shot out of a cannon. My fists were tight, angry balls that day as I charged down the sidewalk. The picture I'd drawn and painstakingly colored had been especially photorealistic. For a 5-year-old, each stick figure boasting a full complement of fingers and clever little scribbles to indicate tattoos. That witch had torn it up, then yelled at me for sneaking off to finish it instead of watching an animated short about a tugboat named Timmy. I'd made the mistake of loudly dismissing Timmy as retarded. It was my favorite new word that year, retarded. What the good sisters didn't know is that I usually prefaced it with fucking. Car horns blatted as I ran across the street. Half a dozen drivers lurched to a stop. Day or night, Hollywood Boulevard vibrated like a rudely plucked guitar string. There were big stars on the sidewalk full of letters I couldn't read, and not knowing what the stars said pissed me off. The greasy, potato-y smell of French fries made my mouth water, but I knew you had to have money to buy things like that, and I didn't have any. I had no idea where I was going. All I knew was what I was running from. I thought about my classmates who were, for the most part, drab, spiritless creatures. I thought about the nuns and the 100 rules that I could never seem to follow. I found it impossible to picture nuns doing anything human. Farting, for instance, or driving a car. I'd seen Sister Winifred eating a tuna sandwich once and went panicky, as though the world had tilted on its axis. Now I smelled cotton candy, and there was a guy in a paper hat setting out glistening cones of sponge sugar. The thing I loved about cotton candy was it always came in nursery colors, baby blanket blue and rosebud pink, and it seemed so fun and cheerful and harmless. When it melted on your tongue, it left a sticky coating of sugar. I stood, a little drunk from the smell, about 10 feet from the cotton candy, wishing I could have some. A man with a crew cut pulled up to the curb in a big rumbly car. He leaned over the steering wheel to smile. He looked like our postman, Mr. Dobbs, but without the missing front tooth. "You like cotton candy?" he asked me. He seemed friendly, but I didn't know him, and the car engine made it hard to hear. I nodded. "Would your mom or dad get mad if I bought you some?" Was he serious? I told him my dad lived in heaven, so I couldn't ask him if it was okay, and my mom was at home, only I didn't know how to get there. My frantic hope was that he'd buy me a cotton candy anyway. That hope hung in the space between us. The man craned his neck to look around, then popped open the passenger door. "Well, come on in," he said. "I'll give you a whole $1. You can get 2 cotton candies, if you like." Surprise at my good fortune made me hesitate, but only for a second. I'd forgotten all about the torn picture and mean nuns. I got in the car, which smelled good, like new boots and peppermint chewing gum. He offered me a piece. I folded it into my mouth and chewed, looking at him. He had a tiny scar on his lip. "Close the door," he said. The car seat was warm. A red Christmas ornament dangled from his rearview mirror. I closed the door. He patted down his pockets and then looked in the glove compartment, apparently for money. He didn't find any. "Hey, you know what?" he said. "I live about 2 blocks from here. I can give you the money when we get there. Deal?" The car pulled away from the curb. I wasn't sure I liked this. I wanted to stay with the cotton candy. I wanted to stay with the big sidewalk stars that had writing in them. The man was nice, but I was more comfortable staying here with the things I knew. He was driving faster now, and he seemed a little... I searched for a 5-year-old's word for agitated, like the Riddler acted when Batman caught him. I saw the Arco gas station that gave away a free starter arc and collectible animals, so I knew we were near my house, but I still couldn't think where it was. The man pulled up to a dirty stucco duplex with a chain-link fence around it and turned to me with a smile I didn't trust. His forehead was sweaty, and I was getting a bad feeling now. A feeling not unlike the one I had when Sister Mary Margaret showed me the paddle. My legs were heat-suctioned to the seat. I noticed his windshield wipers left 2 lighter arcs of grime. "Let's you and me go in," he said. "You can watch TV while I look for that $1. "Yeah," I said. "Sure." He reached across to shove open the heavy door. I didn't like him so near. The door hinges creaked, and I saw a long, narrow triangle of driveway and a clump of weeds poking out of it. I took off so fast it was 2, maybe 3 seconds before I heard him shout, "Where are you going? Come back here!" I took the corner too sharply and whacked my shoulder. My heart kept pounding like it might jump out of my chest, which scared me almost as much as he did. I knew he couldn't catch me now. I was safe, but ran another 3 blocks just in case, then ducked into a record store. There was a stitch in my side and a gash on the toe of my black patent leather shoes. "What you doing here, sugar?" a red-haired lady asked me. "I'm lost," I explained. "I ran away from school. Sister Mary Margaret didn't like the picture I drew, so she tore it up." She looked startled and then thoughtful. She patted my head. "They got a word for that," she said. "It's called censorship." "Oh, no, ma'am," I told her. "It wasn't a picture of a ship at all. It was a picture of my family." As the story goes, I badgered my mom into giving up rock and roll by the time I turned 6. If she hadn't made it by then, she agreed it might be time to do something else, something that made her less miserable. And so many things made her miserable. Jim Byron, her crazy as a shithouse rat manager, and on again, off again lover. Her younger, equally volatile lovers who always played drums in the band. Our perennial lack of funds. Despite the mansion and Yvette, money always seemed to be in short supply. So she turned in her hot pants for a business suit, sold easy play organs at a chain store in the mall, and when I was 10, moved us to Houston, Texas. She managed a piano store in Houston for her new boyfriend, some married prick named Tim, Crisco Slick, who sported a pompadour and had the kind of twinkling blue eyes you see on televangelists right before they stick you for a pledge. On Sunday afternoons, before our exodus to Texas, I used to wander by myself through the mall while my mom worked, either watching the same movie 5 or 6 times until I could actually recite the dialogue, or maybe hanging out at the bookstore. I had mixed feelings about the bookstore, only because a sweaty Mexican guy who worked at an Orange Julius across the way liked to tiptoe past me when I wasn't looking and sneak a reach around. I complained to one of the store clerks, who told me the solution was simple. Just don't come here anymore. So I didn't. Now, even though I'm 20, I'm still nervous about my trip to California. I haven't been back since I was a kid. My mother drives me to the airport, so I won't have to pay for parking, she says. But instead, she uses the drive to give me her speech about what a disappointment I am. Why do I dress like trash? Why would any girl as smart as I am agree to take her clothes off when she could work a respectable job in an office somewhere? And while we're on the subject, with my aptitude for languages, why couldn't I have gotten a job at the UN? A good woman, my mother, but wily. And you've always got to keep your gloves up, left jab, right hook, accusation, judgment. I'm usually exhausted by round 2 and end up just avoiding her. As I always feared, my mother discovered where all my money was coming from when she found a box of it under my bed, and she hasn't let it alone since. She continues to bitch at me as we move through the terminal, upping the emotional ante by pointing out that no man will ever love me. No man will ever respect a woman who dresses like I do. I wish I'd asked Betts to drive. I tuned my mother out, so I'm hearing maybe 1 word in 10, not even bothering to defend myself anymore, just nodding as I haul my overstuffed luggage to the check-in counter. I allow myself a small frisson of self-importance as I stand in line. After all, I am shooting for a major photographer. If this were high school, and after all, when isn't it, I would be the pretty princess, and everyone would have to watch from the sidelines as I promenaded down the hall. With perfect timing, a pilot marches to the counter, gives me the smile, and then saunters over. I preen under his attention. He escorts me to the front of the line, upgrades my seat to first class, and without even asking for my number, kisses my hand and bids a charming farewell. My mother is so flabbergasted, not 1 word comes out of her mouth for a whole minute. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris Kepler, and I hope you enjoyed listening to these stories as much as I enjoyed narrating them. I'd love for more people to hear these wonderful stories, so please share and tell your friends.